Welcome to the GinGee GoodEarth show. I'm reading the book, The Universal History of the United States of America. I'm on page 207, and I welcome you today with freedom of spirit, joy, love, and peace. And we're just going to go right into the book, and I'm on page 207. But I was saying in the last video that illegal drugs, pharmaceuticals that are unnecessary, like the opiate epidemic that it caused, and producing and inventing viruses that kill humanity. We've been suffering with the AIDS virus. It has ravaged every country on the earth for 40 years. And again, I noted in my previous video that I had met number patient 12 that came in from New York City to Pittsburgh, and I got to interview her and meet her even before she was diagnosed with full end-stage, full-blown AIDS. That was 1986. And we could have quarantined it, and we could have saved all these lives, and we could have worked on our modern intelligence to help bring all of us into enlightenment. But you had forces that were so self-serving and working in profit instead of working for humanity that they brought us all down to the abyss, and now we're all at bent knee suffering from superfluous, detrimental, hellacious, malice, ignorant decisions. God bless us. Watch Tom Fitton on Judicial Watch, where the rule of law matters, where civility does matter. And in 1990, I defined it: civility, social, and nice matters. That's one of my mission statements for the Pittsburgh Victorian Gibson Girls. And then I brought teaism into Pittsburgh. I tried to educate on civility, peace, nice matters, social, being social. I won the national contest for JCPenney's on inclusion and diversity. So I think about all of this all the time. I'm a people person. I want us to have success in life, and liberty is one's potential for success in life. That's a quote that is now documented in the records of the Library of Congress. That's my hope for everybody. Peace to all mankind. So we'll get there, but now we have to really work a lot harder and fight for our country. This picture right here is Newport Road. This is Newport, Rhode Island. Look at the battleships. This video does a loop. I never know what pictures are going to come up. So we have the French and we have the Americans. And then we have the rhododendron. And that's my front yard landscape. So, okay, I'm starting to get tired, but I'm on the 5th video in one day. I'm going to take a little break, but I need some. You can enjoy the picture show, but I need to drink some pop. What do I have? I have iced coffee. There's the rhododendron, the forsythia, azaleas. Isn't that pretty? The rhododendron are beautiful. That's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then red azaleas. Everybody in the rotunda at the Capitol Hill, safeguard your life. Safeguard your life. Use Safeguard soap. And you know, isn't that amazing? They're telling us we have a very contagious virus. And then, over 40,000 men and women are sleeping in the rotunda on Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., wearing a mask. But that's probably one of the highest incidents of contagion among all those people that I ever saw in my life. In fact, if one was vaccinated, it shouldn't be among people that have never been vaccinated. So we have to assume they've all been vaccinated. But they must be suffering quite a bit. So, I hope that everybody gets on board, especially our men of freedom and peace, gets on board at their local city council and then serve on House, Senate, Congress seats and keep the peace for the cause of humanity. Humanity. For the cause of humanity. Humanity. These wonderful people that sacrifice their families, their lives, their livelihoods, so that we could have freedom. My father passed away very early in life, at 50, because he worked too hard. He was a Navy Seabee. He was a veteran, and he died quite young. I miss him a whole lot. So I know how it feels to be a veteran's daughter and miss your loved ones. And there is no hopium. You have to take care of yourself. It's been a real struggle, not having a grandfather for your children and all that. It's hard. It's hard. It's a long haul. So, and I had 3 children, and I had to raise them myself, and it was a long haul, and it can be unbearable at times, especially when you don't have, your own father helping you. My mother had 6 children, so she was a great help. So she had to raise 6 children part of her lifetime on her own. So I guess learning survival skills is like one of the foremost important aspects of training yourselves to be self-sufficient. And wishing everybody luck and success. So I've never been so sad. The past 25 years have been very sad. I always thought that, you work hard and you get rewarded and you're being a helper to your community. It was never about the money, because I worked in hospitals and the pay was never that great. So enjoy the picture show, and I'm going to find my spot in the book. So, okay, so we're on the top of 206, and I turned the page, and the book is really deteriorated. There's oil spots all through the book. With 2,600 land forces protected by the squadron under Sir George Collier and supported by General Garth to begin their depredations in Connecticut on the 4th of July, the armament moved into the Sound and the commanders issued their proclamation to the citizens of Connecticut, offering pardon and protection to all such as would return their allegiance. But the threatening ruin and destruction to all who should reject his overture. Now remember, the East Coast has 200 years of history, and California only has 100 years of history. So, we're talking about historical references of people's past, there's a really big different relationship here. And I think that it does cause a rift between the balance of decision making in Congress and in the House. So anyway, the overture. On the morning of the 6th, General Tyrone landed his division on East Haven. General Garth landed at the same time at West Haven and proceeded directly to New Haven and gave up the town to promiscuous pillage. The militia collected so fast on the next day that the enemy abandoned the town in haste, burnt several stores on Long Wharf, and embarked their troops. Anything that's on the wharf is usually on the water. The infamous Tyrone next proceeded to the plunder of East Haven and then sailed for Fairfield. The town and vicinity were laid in ruins, and the enemy embarked for Newark, which was next laid in ashes, and then returned to New York. In this incursion, 4 houses for public worship, near 100 dwellings, 80 barns, about 30 stores, 17 shops, 4 mills, and 5 vessels were burnt. And in addition to this destruction of property, the greatest acts of brutality were perpetrated. Women were insulted and abused while their apparel was robbed, and desks, trunks, and closets were rifled. But the plan was concerted by General Washington, which kept in check this hero of rapine and conflagration. This plan issued in the capture of Stony Point on the Hudson. General Wayne commenced his movements against Stony Point on the 15th at noon. I want you to watch the picture show because I'm going to change the music. Let's see what we got here. I love this song. Get some music on. Woohoo! Okay. General Wayne commenced his movements against Stony Point on the 15th at noon, and after having crossed the mountains through dangerous and difficult defiles, he approached the fort about 8 of the same evening. Having reconnoitered the position of enemy, the general put himself at the head of his brave troops, and at 20 minutes past 12 precisely, on the night of the 16th, entered the fort and screwed bayonets amidst the most tremendous fire of musket and grapple, and carried the fortress without firing a gun. Lieutenant Colonel Fleury entered the fort with his division, and upon the opposite side, at the same time, on both parties, met in the center, but the garrison was spared and made prisoners of war to the number of 543. General Wayne dismantled the fort and brought off the cannon, stores, and agreeable to orders. Congress passed a vote of thanks to General Washington. General Wayne and the officers and soldiers under the command switch it up here. Okay, so we're going to turn the page soon. Oh, okay. I gotta lift this up. It's like way too low. Oh, I know what I'll do. There we go. I can see so much better. I got to make some adjustments. According to his instructions, let's see, their country was devastated and 160,000 bushels of corn were consumed. Okay, we got to go back up. The English, having persuaded the Six Nations, excepting the Oneidas, to take up the hatchet against the United States, General Sullivan, was sent with a detachment of from 4,000 to 5,000 men to chastise them. He marched up the Susquehanna and attacked them in their fortifications, which were well constructed. The resistance was obstinate, but they were compelled to yield and took to flight. According to instructions, their country was devastated and 160,000 bushels of corn were consumed. The attention of the reader will now be turned to the ocean, where the brilliant achievements of our hardy tars struck with terror the mistress of the seas. About the last of July, the American captain, John Paul Jones, sailed from Port l'Orient in France on a cruise on board the French ship, the Bonhomme Richard, of 40 guns and 375 men, accompanied by the frigates Alliance of 36 guns. And who is that? There's a YouTuber that's related to John Paul Jones. And I know his name is David, and I don't know. He has, he's a UFO enthusiast. I see his name, but I don't know it. Okay, so anyhow, he just told us the other day he's related to John Paul Jones. It's like a great uncle. But anywho, French ships, the Bonhomme Richard of 40 guns, since 375 men, accompanied by their frigates, Alliance of 36 guns, Pallas 32 guns, and the Vengeance, an armed brig of 12 guns and cutter. Commodore Jones cruised off the coast of Scotland with his little squadron until he fell in with the homeward bound Baltic fleet under the convoy of the Serapis, Captain Pearson, and the Countess of Scarborough, Captain Percy. When Captain Pearson discovered Commodore Jones, he made sail to cover the convoy and gave signal at the same time for the Countess of Scarborough to join him, which was immediately done September 23rd. Commander Jones immediately laid his ship alongside of the Serapis and commenced an action, which soon became desperate. But the Serapis appeared to reap advantage from her superior management. To obviate this, 208, Commodore Jones laid his ship across the bow of the Serapis, and the ships grappled, yard arm and yard arm, and the muzzles of their guns were nearly in contact. In this position they lay, vomiting forth death, and strewing the decks with carnage and destruction. About 2 hours, both ships were frequently on fire, but the Serapis not less than a 2 of 12 times. The Alliance attempted to cooperate in the action, and with some good effect until the darkness of the evening rendered it impossible to distinguish correctly, when she killed 11 men and wounded several others on board the Bonhomme Richard. At this critical moment, the Serapis struck and closed the sanguinary scene. The Bonhomme Richard, at the close of the action, was so much of a wreck as to have 7 feet of water in her hold, which tendered it necessary to remove the crew on board, the Serapis, and the wounded on board the Pallas. On the 24th, her pumps were closely plied, but on the 25th she went down, because she had shit boxes in the hold. Fortunately, no lives were lost. The palace engaged and took the Countess of Scarborough at the same time, and Commodore Jones sailed with his prizes for the coast of Holland and anchored off the Texel. We shall now return to the operations in the southern states. Instead of pursuing General Prescott in the retreat to Georgia, General Lincoln devoted all his powers and strength to the defense of Charleston against any further attack. After learning the success of the Count d'Estaing in the West Indies, Governor Rutledge, General Lincoln, and the French consul wrote to the Count inviting him to cooperate with the Americans in the reduction of Savannah. The invitation was accepted, and on the 1st of September he arrived in Charleston with a fleet of 20 sail of the line, 2 of the 50 guns, and 11 frigates. A British 80 gunship and 3 frigates were taken by surprise. On the arrival of the Count, General Lincoln marched with all his troops for Savannah. The fleet sailed to join him. The French troops were landed in 10 or 12 days. Count d'Estaing summoned the town to surrender to the arms of the King of France. General Lincoln remonstrated against this, as the Americans were acting in